least turn on my microphone. Hopefully get through it in a reasonable amount of time. We do have a quorum, and we will start with introductions. Jason?
Jason Dosh, Town of Palmer Lake.
Aaron Busto, Federal Highways.
Junior Rodriguez, CDOT.
Lachelle CDOT, Region 2 Local Agency.
Kathleen Collins, CDOT HQ, Statewide Planning.
Wendy Pettit, CDOT Region 2 Planning.
Victoria Chavez, El Paso County.
Sally Riley, City of Woodland Park.
Glenn Miskey, I'm actually with the Academy now, so that's...
Okay. All right. We'll let Jessica know so she can make you a new one.
Darren Horstmeyer, Schriever Air Force Base.
Rick Orphan, Fort Carson.
Tim Roberts, City of Colorado Springs.
Go ahead, Brandy Williams, City of Fountain, and we'll go with staff. Catherine?
Catherine Winger, PPACG.
William Mast, PPACG.
Jessica Bechtel, PPACG. And if you need a new nameplate, you don't have one, you need it updated, please indicate on the sign-in sheet that's going to come around, and I'll make sure you have one for the next meeting.
And
Connor Hahn, bike intern for Colorado Springs.
welcome.
Robin Allen, City of Colorado Springs.
And if John could walk faster, he could introduce himself, but I don't think he's gonna. You gonna make it in time? You want me to stall? No, I waited until exactly 1:30. It's now 1:32, so it's been a whole 2 minutes. So we've definitely stalled long enough.
Is that Greenwich time?
Yeah, for you to.
All right, well, I apologize.
Come on over and introduce yourself.
John Leo Santos, PPACG.
Any comments on the agenda? Any changes, Catherine or John? Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Are there any comments from the public / employees that are associated with those sitting at this table? No? Okay, we're good. Any comments on the minutes? Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Approval.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? John, Board of Directors report.
Thanks. So we had items of interest for the TAC here. We did have a modeling presentation from Eric Phil with FHWA, kind of going over what modeling does and what the level or standard of modeling that's required for the MPO is. And so that kind of cleared up some questions. I think when we did the small area forecast last year, the staff that we had working on that, it raised some questions as to the compatibility between our land use model and our travel demand model. And now I think after this presentation yesterday, all those questions have been put to rest, and there's a much higher comfort level, especially at the board level, with how those two models interact. Under action items, they approved the TIP Amendment number 11, and they approved the long-range transportation plan and the draft TIP for public review, and and then we just had the regular. Brandy gave the TAC report, and with that, Catherine, do we mention the cookies now or later?
Whatever you want.
So again, thank you all very, very much for the passage of the long-range plan. I've only been here for less than 2 years, but some of you have been here from the duration for the full 4-year process. So we're very happy that that got adopted and we can move forward. I know there are some things that we're going to have to go back and address, but that being said, as far as the 2050 plan, but this one is done, and we couldn't do it without you guys being willing to compromise and helping us out with that. So we stopped at Safeway and bought cookies on our way back from Manitou Springs. And there are gluten-free cookies, too, somewhere. So we made sure we took care of everybody. So, in fact, if you could grab some cookies, just start passing them around the table, Michelle, yeah, thanks. So again, thank you very much.
Wait, did you say cookies bought in Manitou Springs?
What's the Safeway between here and there? So I'm not sure if we were, I think we were outside Manitou. I think we were in Colorado Springs. Is that county, is that, oh, I can't call it no man's land. What do I call it? Where was I?
It's in the city.
I was in the city. So again, that's the report.
Does anybody have any questions for John? Action items. Item 6A, fiscal year 2019-2022 project cost overrun request and tip amendment number 12. Catherine?
Catherine would.
While she's getting ready, no federal dollars were harmed in the making of those cookies.
Thanks, John. Catherine Wenger, Senior Transportation Planner, PPACG. So in December, an email was sent out to TAC members regarding the availability of federal STP, Metro, TAP, and CMAQ funds that were going to be returned to our regional pot, and they would be made available for cost overruns for current projects listed in 2020. The total amount was $1,980,557. And then the email provided a questionnaire application for any members that wish to apply for the additional funds. The project currently, one application was received and is provided in the attachments, attachment number 1, and that's from Colorado Springs. They requested all funds for their 30th Street project. And Tim, did you want to talk about your application at all now that you have cookies in your mouth? My apologies. Or I can keep talking while I give you some time.
Well, yeah, our project is short, as I mentioned in the application or in the forms. We are pursuing, and there's a question about, is there an eligible element for the TAP funds that we are also requesting to be used for it? And the answer is yes. The project includes tunneling the trail that runs along Garden of the Gods and 30th Street. That will be a grade separated tunnel. There's a tunnel, so that's an eligible expense towards the TAP funds. So that's how we qualify for that. And the project's in need of the full amount.
And that's so that it will meet that June of 2020 deadline.
And we absolutely will meet. I'm looking at the project manager, and yes, we strongly believe we will meet that deadline.
Okay. Great. So, if approved, we would need a TIP amendment to update this into the TIP. In addition to this amendment to the TIP, we've also have other requests to update the TIP as well, which is in your second table on that memo. We have a few of them there. So we have, if approved or if you choose to move forward with it, add the funds for the 30th Street roadway and safety improvements, cancel the Manitou Springs Canyon Avenue Bridge as they would like to return the funds because they no longer need them. You would also be canceling Colorado Springs MMT Route 9 project because they would be returning those funds as that project's already been completed with other dollars. There is a two cancel projects for Monument, one Beacon sidewalks and one Lincoln sidewalks. Both of those have been returned, are requested to be returned by the jurisdiction as they have shifted priorities to another project and for requesting reallocation. And those are all related to the funds that would be coming back to the pool and then be reallocated to the cost overruns that Colorado Springs is requesting. And there's an additional request to add project from Mountain Metro Transit. This is to add 2 battery electric buses and 2 charging stations. They receive funds from FTA awarded competitive grant in that amount, and so they're requesting to add that to the TIP. And then we also have a adjust scope request by Manitou Springs for their Creek Walk Trail. In the current TIP, it listed as phases 3 and 4. They've already designed phase 3, so they're requesting to use design money for phase 4 to construct phase 3 instead. So this would be a reduction in scope for the project that's currently listed in the TIP, but this would enable them to construct a piece of that instead of having two pieces that were designed instead of a finished project. And then finally, we have a request to add funds from Copper Ridge, which is a developer, to just to update the costs that are associated with the I-25 and State Highway 21 Powers interchange. Those costs have been increased, and they've come up with new numbers of the actual cost for that, and so they're requesting an update. And I think that's all.
Does anybody have any questions for Catherine? Brian?
I'd like to recommend approval of tip amendment number 12 of the 2019 to 2022 tip.
I'll second that. For discussion. For discussion.
You two can flip a coin. Victoria?
Okay, I understand that there was a meeting this morning with Springs, Fountain, El Paso County, and PPACG, and I'm wondering if there's anything we need to know before we vote on this item.
I think the man with the cookie holds most of the cards, but do you want to try and recap it, John, and then maybe Tim can comment on it?
Sure, yeah, I didn't know things were happening today, so I was a little flat-footed. But, so at this point, we know that we have development happening on south of Powers, basically in unincorporated El Paso County, but Fountain, a little bit of Colorado Springs. And we know that if action is not taken, those development actions may preclude options, mobility options into the future for that part of our region. So that being said, the discussion this morning was, we understand where the developers are coming from. We do think that they have every right to move forward with their business. However, they're probably not adverse, and we all are not adverse, to making sure that we've studied the area to the extent possible to make sure that we've assured mobility into the future for that area. Because again, if we stop Powers there at Milton Proby, or just south of that.
Mesa Ridge Parkway.
Thank you, Mesa Ridge Parkway. Then we're sort of locking ourselves in. So we need to make sure that we have options into the future, and the only way to do that is to look at a study. So the conversation this morning was, how can we move forward with a study? What are our options? What funding options are available for that study? And again, it's one of those things where time is of the essence, given that there are other activities happening, and if we don't move swiftly, those activities will preclude some of the options into the future. So that's sort of the meeting that we had this morning, is how do we all come together and find the funding necessary to do a study as quickly as possible to make sure that we're preserving right-of-way options into the future. And I don't think I need to go into what we sort of talked about as far as what those options are, because it sounds like maybe some of those have changed since this morning. So
it's been an interesting few hours. That is correct.
So, is it my turn?
It can be.
So Tim Roberts, City, Colorado Springs. After your meeting, some of this was discussed with me post-meeting, and trying to have a better understanding of what was going on. I'm talking with some of my partners in the partnering agencies, and we think that we know an $800 to $1 million study was discussed previously. And it seems like we really need to focus on an area within the city of Fountain and have some and we don't need to be so specific in the county. And we're thinking that a more, a reduced study could accomplish what was discussed this morning, in the amount of $400,000. So with that, the city is willing to consider reducing some of the requests for the 1.9 million. I've talked it over with the Public Works Director, and right now we have the whole project with the 1.9. If we give up 200,000, we're going to have to find that someplace internally. So that's still in question, and I just had mentioned that we have a whole project with the 1.9. So, kind of want to have the general discussion here before we go there, but that's one option I guess I'd throw out there. Is it's something that, from my boss's boss, is something that we might be able to help out with.
Wendy?
I think that there could still be some funding that isn't evident in the pool yet. There was some roll forward funding that hasn't, de-budgets and some, let me explain this from the very beginning, I guess, that way you can understand. So when you have a project that's budgeted, let's say for instance in 2018, in the old days, it used to come into 2020, and it didn't matter where it came from. I'm not sure what the reasoning behind segregating this different years of funding is at headquarters at this point. I don't know what they're doing with that, but I have some money that I know hasn't been completely processed and rolled into 2020 at this point. I think there's about $250,000 that we haven't accounted for at this point yet in what we have here. So with that being said, that would only leave another $150,000 that needs to be swept out of the corners to be able to do the $400,000 study that would be probably sufficient enough to get us to an answer with that area. With that being said, I think that's more attainable than not. But it's not my decision what happens with that STP Metro money. We'd have to make another call with that roll forward when it comes up to that point, and then figure out how we come up with that other $150,000, how it's paired together, just a food for thought.
And is there a timeline on when that might have a call for it?
Well, we could probably do it next month.
Okay, so not in 6 months, but very soon.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
Tim?
And thank you. I was, we were talking about affecting the 30th Street project. Are there any other opportunities where anybody else has, like, does the city of Fountain have a project that they can, make not complete also to help fund this, or the county, or are there other options out there rather than just this one where maybe we nickel and dime it from all of them, or just to help make this work?
Victoria?
I always forget to raise my hand.
Microphone.
Thank you. I always forget that, too. I personally, and not my organization, but me, I struggle to not fund a project that's ready to go and has, has basically all its funding plus some extra support from the city, so I appreciate the urgency of your project, and I understand its importance. I'm thrilled that Wendy might have some other options that we could look at. I'm also completely open to looking at our projects to see if there's anything we can swap years on to help with that, if other jurisdictions would do the same. I think I could find a way to support, hopefully without getting fired, somebody going to 30th Street. But I also would like us to, and I don't know maybe if it's at the next TAC or if we would just write a joint letter, but maybe helping CDOT to understand how important that corridor and its study is to our region, and not just one jurisdiction. that would probably go a long way, not only for CDOT, but for any future grants that we might apply for. If we have a letter from the PPACG board that says this is a very high priority for us. So if we could maybe work on those parallel paths, I believe I could support the motion on the table.
Wendy?
I don't think that the region doesn't support what we're trying to do here with 21 South, but you also have to take into consideration that we gutted our whole program to be able to build Cimarron, Fillmore, and all the work that we've done here in this region. And I can't take money from the other planning partners anymore because they're not going to let me. They're going to say no. We've done that. We went to the respective areas, and I've had to stand there and say, I need to move that money to Colorado Springs. You get it back in such and such year. Well, guess what? It's their turn, and there is no money in our coffers right now for PPACG till out years. So unless there's something that is returned that's not spoken for, I don't know how much buy-in there would be from the other planning partners around Region 2 to donate any part of it to come back here for the study. But with that being said, I'm not the boss, so I'm more than happy to take that information back, but I don't want to create a false expectation, one, that we're not in support, because we do understand how important it is. We, the worker bees in the region, understand how important it is to preserve that right-of-way. And we, the region, understand that, there's some definite benefit for everybody to make sure that alignment is decided upon. But I can't tell you that because we support it doesn't mean we can fund it. That's all I don't want to create a false expectation either direction.
Okay. Tim?
So, a quick question. If we get the study, an alignment study and needs, basically, how does that guarantee the developer will work with the city of Fountain to make sure the roadway stays? I mean, would we be doing all this and they still could just say, sorry, thanks anyway? Or is this something that will allow us to, will that give you the ability to hold the line and they'll dedicate or work with the city of Fountain to make sure it goes?
At this moment, they're willing to work with what we come up with, but I think they need something more than just that yellow line on a piece of paper. I think this would be more definitive and specific, as was mentioned, for Fountain, and even kind of expanding upon it in the county to make it kind of that next step. There is an annexation agreement that mentions it. There's not an annexation agreement for the other one because it's still in El Paso County. But I think this would really help both the city and the county and the region have that next level of definitiveness to make sure that Power South goes somewhere other than Mesa Ridge Parkway.
So the one that's still not annexed in the city yet, do you have language in there that says they will donate the right-of-way upon annexation?
We don't have an annexation agreement yet, but that would be part of
Would
it.
that be part of it?
Correct, yes,
Okay.
that would be part of it, but it'd be nice to have an alignment so that we can, so it's a definitive, yes, this is how much you're giving, and yes, this is where it's located. So that they know when they come in. And based upon the current conversation, I feel it's a little last minute to change kind of what's on the table now, but it sounds like if we take the next month and in combination with what Wendy brought up and possibly Victoria, we could come up with a couple different options and then maybe discuss those at our next TAC meeting.
Can I throw one more question out there to Wendy? We have a current, this year, 5 Points roundabout, and we went out and got more money, and the bids come in, we may not be spending all of it. I don't know if it's 5 Points or it might be a different project, but there might be some cost savings from one of our projects that we will be submitting back, right? Does that then become available to the region?
It depends on the color of money, because I think the 5 Points roundabout is funded with HSIP, and so that wouldn't be an eligible color of money to do this. But if you had SDP that we added to that, then you could spend the HSIP money on the project and return the metro.
Okay.
So we can figure out how to make that work if you have.
If that's the right project. I can't remember if it was that one or a different one.
Right.
But I know is HSIP same as CMAQ?
It's
It is a
specific.
CMAQ.
It's specific to it, that you wouldn't be able to do the study with it.
Yeah, you
Not
have to
that-
apply for a
Yeah.
specific project
Yeah.
for each.
Gotcha. Okay. I just know, talking to Mike, that we had one project that might be returning funds, and I can't remember which one.
Well, it is a realistic expectation. We just had a project come in that, a concrete project that came in like over $1 million under budget, so it is possible.
John?
So, kind of caught flat-footed here, right? So I didn't know we were going to have this conversation. I didn't quite know it was going to go this way. So it took me a little while to think I understand what's going on and see if I have something intelligent to add here. So right now, we have this TIP amendment with the funds that are available on the table. Looks like there was just a City of Colorado Springs project there. And then at this point, the discussion after this TIP amendment has sort of branched out into saying, hey, we've got this very important study, can we move some funds over to it? So that being said, now that I've sort of taken this in, I think the very first thing that I don't want to, but I think I need to mention is, remember that if these are returned funds, our own policy within PPACG is that they go back to existing projects. This study that I personally, again, think is very much needed and fully support personally is a brand-new project. So as a matter of process and moving forward, the first question to you all is this project important enough for us to set aside our new project, our go back to existing projects rule and do it? Now, again, this is a PPACG rule that you all have created. So therefore, you all can also say, we're going to set that rule aside. So that's the first thing, is maybe let this go as is, and then what we bring to the table next week is, the first item on the agenda is Power South study. Is it important enough regionally to all the stakeholders at the table to set aside our existing project rule and allow a new project? And then if you all vote yes to that, then the next item on the agenda is, well, then how do we fund it? And hopefully within the month between here and there, it's either, as Victoria has said, looking in the seat cushions for some money, as Wendy has said, looking for monies that have been returned, and then, as you have said, looking at maybe swapping out some other projects. One of those projects that might be swapped out could be the 30th Street project. So again, if you have money that your City Council is willing to put onto the project so that the region can remove money from the project to help fund this, that $150,000 or $200,000, whatever we discussed, that would be the appropriate vehicle under the TIP amendment. All those different things that we will collect prior to the meeting, put into the agenda packet, that you would all receive a week in advance so you could all look at it, digest it, think about it. Then when we come to the table next week, if the first item passes and the second item passes, we now have that study is funded. Whoever we identify as that project sponsor then has the project would then be in the TIP and be current money that's available now. They could go through their procurement process, hire a consultant, and we could get this thing underway because, again, time is of the essence. Again, that's probably showing my hand and my personal opinion a little too much. But I think that's the way I see that this sort of needs to play out. Am I incorrect?
No, it can play out any way it wants, but that is an option.
Okay.
And it is an option that we wrote ourselves out of, but I appreciate the willingness and flexibility to be able to discuss it for this particular project, as it is a regional project that's important probably to all of us. So I would be willing to have that discussion at next TAC meeting. And I do agree with Brandy that I'm very uncomfortable changing this item right now for a potential future item that we're not sure about, so.
Even if it really does benefit Fountain, but let's give everybody the time to digest it and come to something that everybody's comfortable with. Any other comments on this item?
Does anyone remember what the motion was?
I do.
Okay.
We have a motion to approve item 6A for the first time in a while. as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That wasn't bad. Shorter than I thought. Item 6A, multimodal.
Before you move on, can I ask one more question?
Oh, yeah, sorry, Wendy.
How soon do you need all this money in this project, Tim? When do you want that budget action to happen?
Well, we've got the project manager here. Yeah, we're moving towards the June bid date.
Can you do that, Michelle? To add the money into his project? Can you do it in that time frame?
She could do it. She could do anything.
I mean, we've already have money. Couldn't we supplement it after? Would it be a,
I don't know. Can they do that? Okay. All right.
Can you turn your microphone on, Junior?
How many sources of funding does this have?
3.
well, yeah, with today's action, it'll be is CMAC included?
Yep.
CMAC, TAP, and Metro, and then local.
What we can do is do like the 2 bigger funding sources, CMAC, TAP, and you can start it with that, and then we can option letter.
Okay. Because there's what, 12 million programmed in the tip?
We can get it done. We can get it done.
Okay.
And quick question. None of the other projects that are returning the funds have already started their IGA process, correct? So we don't have that issue of making sure that goes back through that process?
No. I think we're good.
Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure.
Any other questions on 6A? 6B, multimodal options funding. Catherine?
All right. So last month you approved the multimodal option fund, or maybe 2 months ago, you approved the multimodal option funds call for projects, the schedule, and the criteria. Since then, it's been brought to our attention that the closeout and due date for this application would be before anyone knows about the TAP Region 2 funds that would be available and possibly awarded to some of you. So it's been suggested that we move the due date for the multimodal funds further into April, May, so that you'll know about the TAP funds before you'll know about, or before you apply for this, and that's so you could possibly use those for matching each other's funds, the state and the federal. And so this would be, there is the current schedule is listed, what you approved before, and then a suggested change based on the recommendations of moving that after the time you know about the TAP funds. So that is the call for projects would just remain open just as a longer date, and then draft applications for CDOT review would be mid-April, and then final applications would be due to PPACG April 30th, and then we would do the scoring and selection workshop in May, and then it would go to TAC and CAC for recommended approval and inclusion in the TIP in June. So in May for information, June for action, and then for the board it would be June for information and July for action going into the new TIP document. So it wouldn't be official until July at this point instead of before it was May.
Any questions for Catherine?
Is there anyone that actually
Brian?
needs us to wait?
So is this just to keep us from doing extra work, filling out extra applications that we may not need to? I mean, if we're submitting something for CDOT Region 2's TAP program, and we may also submit for the Multimodal Options Fund, it's to make us do less work or help us do less work? Or
I suppose that's part of it, but also some people might, for their budgeting purposes, they might need to know if they need a 50% match versus a 20% match. So I think it's part of the budgeting as well.
Plus, if you get money in the one process, you don't have to take that project into this process.
Right.
And then some of the projects that may not get funded.
John, can you turn your microphone on?
Some of the projects that might not get funded if you do it early, then has the opportunity to be funded later because they would have already been sort of taken off the list because they've been funded through a different process.
And the multimodal, sorry,
No, go ahead.
the multimodal options fund money has to be spent by 2023, right?
Yes, June of 2023.
Okay, so there's, I mean, delaying it a couple months isn't really going to
And it's,
affect that, right?
and it's in alignment with other regions that have a similar timeframe as well.
Now, Victoria.
Love this idea. Thank you for coming up with it. I will absolutely vote yes for it, and I will move approval.
Let's get a second real quick. Anybody want a second Victoria's motion? Come on, Sam, you can do it.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Karen. Wendy?
I had a chance to have a chat with Michael Snow, so as soon as we have information on what projects we're funding with the MMOF funds, we can hit the ground running with them. We're not being held up by contracting issue is what I'm told. So we should be good to go as soon as we award the projects.
That's very encouraging. Any other questions or comments on 6B? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Are we going to get a meeting maker notice for the new
Workshop?
workshop?
Yes, I will send that out.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
There won't be cookies out
You just have to save them for a few months.
Item 7A, CDOT update.
Did you have something?
Kathleen used to give us brownies for workshops.
She did.
I think
I'll
that's your
mention
job.
that to Todd.
I think it's your job to bring us brownies.
I don't do
Tim.
brownies. It was Kathleen's equivalent. I'll ask him.
I don't know if Wendy wants to start or Kathleen. I'll let you two.
I really don't have
arm wrestle.
much to report other than the fact that we did our workshop to do the 10-year pipeline in the last couple weeks, and I think we have a region-wide list of projects that's in draft that's moving forward now. We've had input from each of the TPRs and the MPOs, and that's the biggest hurdle that we had to get through over the next couple of weeks. We're starting to get draft TPR plans for review, and we're scheduling meetings around those reviews. So the Central Front Range meeting's been moved to February. So the one that was scheduled 2 weeks from now has been canceled. And that's all I have. You have something, Kathleen?
Sure. The other notice, some of you may already be aware, Irv Halter is the new District 9 Transportation Commission member, and he was sworn in today at the Transportation Commission meeting.
What was his name again?
Irv Halter. He used to be at one point the DOLA director.
Yeah.
Isn't it this?
That's us.
Pikes Peak,
this area.
it's Fremont, it's Park and Teller, I believe.
I'm not sure exactly which counties, but yeah, I believe it is this area.
Fremont, Teller, Park, and El Paso.
No.
And I think that's all the information I have from TC at this point.
John?
We'll put this under CDOT because I think it fits, but it pretty much anywhere. I wanted to remind everybody that we are moving from non-attainment to maintenance, finally to attainment within this region. And as that happens, we are no longer going to be eligible for CMAQ money, which you already know because we haven't put it in. We haven't programmed it for the TIP, haven't programmed it for the long-range plan. But that being said, I believe there's still 2020 CMAQ dollars that can be spent within 2020. You need to do that because it's not going to roll over, because even if it did roll over, when you would go to obligate the money, it probably is going to be an issue, right? So just make sure that your CMAQ projects get done as soon as possible, because again, the reason we were getting those funds because we were in non-attainment has gone away. So therefore, there's that extra hurdle. So, and if you are working with CDOT or FHWA on a CMAQ project and they have already said, you're good, don't worry about it, guess what? They're the experts, you're good, don't worry about it. But from the most part, if you haven't already made contact and you know you have CMAQ money out there, you need to hurry up and get that money obligated and spent because there are limitations to that. So just want to make sure everybody knew that we were in attainment now, I think officially, or soon. So therefore, that funding source is definitely going away at the end of the federal fiscal year.
Can you use it for a study?
I think it has to be a study that is specific to air quality attainment in a non-attainment area. So
I had to ask. Yes, I was just kidding, but I was like, if there's extra money. Anything else for CDOT?
I know, John, you had asked for a 2020 expense report. I don't know if that relates to everyone here at the table, but it was related to Pikes Peak COG. We got a new sheet for people to fill out for 2020 for expenses
okay,
that were sent to you.
yeah, got that. Thank you.
Item 7B, UPWP budget updates. Catherine?
So last month, we've discussed this item, talking about our unified planning work program that lays out all the projects and planning documents and budgets that we plan to work on over the next 2 years. We're in the mid-cycle update for the 2020 and 2021 year. And so we're bringing to you our the contract services and the budget that are associated with them. These are the items that we use our update annually, and so we just wanted to let you know these are the items that we plan to spend these budgets on, and see if you have any other comments, suggestions, or issues with those. One of those items that was brought up last month or 2 months ago was the safety software. We've since kind of made that more of a general safety a safety kind of item instead of safety software specific, and so we still would like to spend money in the safety realm, but maybe not that specific software. And so, any items for discussion? We're happy to talk with you about that if you have any concerns.
So,
I'm sorry.
oh, I'm sorry.
I got called on
Jinx.
then. Buy you a Coke?
I don't know. Well, she looked. Maybe she. I don't know. You can go.
I don't have any issues with this item. I just want to know before you guys go out for traffic counts, because I might want to add some on and maybe do some sort of joint thing there. But I need to get some traffic counts also.
Yeah, I think that's our intent, is to regionalize the traffic count and pavement issues to the extent we can. So that's actually music to our ears, that we want to get everyone together. So we're on board with that. One other quick thing before we get to Aaron's questions on that safety thing. Again, we moved some money around with you guys saying that the Dos Equis, the Diaxis, that's what it's called, software wasn't needed. We're looking for other ways of making sure that we address the safety performance measures and grabbing that data and then having that as part of our project selection process for both TIP and the long-range plan. So we're working on that without using the Diaxis. But that being said, we have identified the possibility of maybe partnering with other organizations. Miley Gray's organization was at Safety... Drive Smart, Colorado, I think, and then maybe seeing if we can't, since they've already got a program that is an education sort of thing, maybe funneling some of the regional safety monies to provide that sort of safety education region-wide. Because at this point, the engineers can only engineer so much. If you're running if someone's running a red light, you can't engineer around that, right? So the only way we're going to do that is by some education, and we think that's a way we're going to have the ability to move the needle. So we wanted to make sure we set money aside for that. The reason why it still says data next to safety education and data was that we wanted to make sure that if moving forward anybody had something where we had the opportunity, for example, if a jurisdiction said, hey, we're going to buy the Diexis software, and we want to see if we can share it and use it for other jurisdictions, instead of us actually purchasing it, we may be able to partner with that jurisdiction and help with part of the purchase price if they then agree to provide all the data to the rest of the member organizations within the region. Not that anyone's approached me on that. I just wanted to leave open that opportunity. So that's why I sort of have some partnership money in there, and I've worded it in such a way that if that opportunity presents itself, we can go down that road. But that being said, there's still money for the safety campaign, which we believe is very important. And if the data thing never comes through, or the software thing, partnership never comes through, we'll throw as much as we can on that. Because even if we get one guy from not running a red light that ends up killing somebody, well, then it's money well spent. So that's where we're going with that. And I'm sorry, Aaron, I hope you still remember your question. I kind of monologued there for a bit.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that this is not amendment or anything, correct? You're just
Not yet.
okay.
It will be next
information.
month. Well, info for next month, and then the one after that would be an amendment for some updates that we're making.
Kathleen?
I just wanted to say this preventative stuff is really important, and it's really hitting home at CDOT because a Region 1 employee was run over and is critically injured and in the hospital right now. So we're also requesting everyone to send prayers and thoughts his way. He hasn't been identified because they don't want to be bombarded by the press or anything, but that's something that hits home with us.
Sally?
Can you explain the acquisition of data and expertise for the UCCS Economic Forum?
Sure. So the UCCS puts on the Economic Forum every year, and so this year was the first year we were partners with that. And so it's part of the Economic Forum. They generate a lot of this data on land use and housing starts and things like that. So we try to grab that data and put it in to make for modeling inputs and things like that. Now, to the extent that that's usually that it's been 3,500, and so to the extent we just started that, I'm not sure that I could point to a lot of places where we've taken that data and been able to plug it in. So we think it's going to be only 3,500, but we put 5,000 just in case there's a need to buy some extra data or do those other things. But that's what it is. And in fact, part of that is attendance to the forum, so we actually sent something out to the board of directors and had them go to the forum as part of that. So
When will the forum occur?
the forum right now, it does not have a date because they're looking at, I think last time they had it in October and they got snowed, I don't want to say snowed out, but instead of having the 500 people that said they were going to show up, it was that one day we had that sort of freak afternoon storm, and it ended up being like only 300 people showing up or something. So they're looking at, well, do we have it earlier or whatever? So it'll be in, we'll give the comfortable fall of 2020.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Catherine? Is there anything anybody wants to change, since eventually we will vote on this officially? Looks good, Catherine.
Thank you.
Item 8, member entity announcements. Do we have an engineer in Woodland Park?
I didn't even know they had a train.
Well, we also have a cog car. So we do. We just bought one from me. Our new engineer, her name is Robin Brown. She will start on February 3rd, so I'll try to get her to a TAC meeting so she can meet all of you. We're excited about that. She comes from Aurora.
Don't overpromise the snacks. They're not in every month.
Yeah, Glenn?
Just want to say thanks to John and his staff. They provided a bunch of traffic demand modeling for us up north. As everybody knows, that area of town's going crazy. and that's an official engineering term, crazy in traffic. So as you know, that Powers Interchange is coming in. Northgate Commons is catching fire quickly and will be under construction probably in the next few months. So just thanks a lot for your guys' assistance.
Happy to help.
Karen?
Well, just a brief update on transportation activity in Manitou Springs. We have a lot of projects that are reaching their conclusion. The first is a mobility study, and the second is our Ruxton Ave functionality study, which is a planning level study to develop a conceptual corridor plan that will precede our design work in that corridor. And so both those projects are going to council for a work session on February 11th. Also ongoing work on the Hiawatha Gardens parking site in our West End, streetscape improvements. My position is actually going to shift from planning to public services, and I'll be assisting with some of these projects. Oh, and Creek Walk Trail, too.
Are you still going to attend the TAC meetings?
I've brought that up for discussion. I'm not sure who will be doing that in the future, but clearly we need to reassign an alternate.
Okay. That would be good. Nothing, Brian? Usually you sneak out with something right at the end. You're good? Okay.
So not only did we finish the long-range plan, we finished the transit plan.
Very exciting. Okay, if there's no other member entity out. Aaron?
I have two. One of them is, I believe last week, the Secretary's Office announced a new round of infra grants. There's $906 million available, and that closes February 25th. If you want more information, please go to the website. And internally in our office, we also have a new Region 2 engineer, Armando Henriquez from the Maryland DOT. So you will start seeing him more. He just started at the beginning of this month, so he's very fresh, even to our agency. So you'll be seeing his name and face a lot more.
Thank you. Nobody? Nobody? Okay. Item 9, items for future TAC meetings. Catherine, John? And I think maybe like a combination of John and Victoria mentioned that's probably going to be a 2-part A and B, South Powers. Hey, this is brand new, out of the box. Is it important to the region? And then B, how do we fund it? Anything else? I can't believe we're going to beat our old record. This is unreal. I think it was like 58 minutes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just barely. All right. Thank you. We're adjourned.